The reason I built a sleep consulting business that earned over $1 million in the last 4 years and allowed me to leave a $150,000 corporate salary was not because I was ultra confident. It was because I had a few beliefs that most people would call completely delusional. I think it is so easy for people to believe that the successful people that they see on the internet who are making all of this money and doing all of these different business and entrepreneurial ventures have this insane confidence. And the reality is, most of us are freaking terrified, just like you are right now, thinking about even doing it. I was terrified every step of the way whenever I decided to start my business, when I enrolled in the certification program that I went through, when I decided to leave my job, every single launch, every single sales conversation, I have always been terrified. So, the answer to jumping in and starting a business is not to just magically have this incredible confidence or to be completely fearless. The answer is simply to move forward even through that fear and to decide that you're not going to let that fear hold you back from doing the thing that you know that you are capable of doing and that you know can possibly change your entire life. So today I'm going to break down the 3 delusional beliefs that I had whenever I started my business and really and truly how those have fueled me throughout and have allowed me to create the success that I have today. So the first belief is simply that I could figure it out. And I think this is where so many really capable women get stuck. They question if it's possible for them. They question if they're going to be able to do this. They see the gap between where they are now or the skills that they have now and where they want to be. And they don't see a reasonable way to be able to bridge that gap. And so they just tell themselves that it's not possible and that it's just not for them, or that they need to go to school first or they need to learn more first. And in many cases, that's not the reality. We just have to take that step forward. We have to decide that this is worth figuring out and we're going to figure it out. And I think that one of the big things here that helped me so much with me being able to simply believe that it was possible and know that I could figure it out is looking at past instances and past examples of where I've done exactly that. So if you're watching this, most likely you have either had a successful career in the past or you're currently in a successful career. And I can guarantee you that your first day in that career or your first day in a new position or in a new role or in a new company or even in a new classroom if you're a teacher, that first day was freaking terrifying. You probably were scared out of your mind, but you figured it out. You showed up, you kept showing up, you iterated, you learned from your mistakes. And over time, you became really freaking amazing at what you do. And now what you do as a career feels completely comfortable. And you know that you would be able to translate those skills into the same type of career or job title. But where you get hung up is thinking about how can I translate those skills into something completely different. So looking at that evidence of I figured this out and not everybody would feel confident in figuring this out and this being your current career and the job that you're great at, and using that evidence to fuel your mind and your belief and the ability and your ability to figure out this new thing is going to be a complete game changer for you, just like it was for me. I looked at how successful I had been in corporate and how many new skills I had learned and how I had become the go-to person in almost every single role that I was in, how I got promoted so frequently, and used that as evidence that I could figure out literally anything that I put my mind to. When I started this business, I knew absolutely nothing about owning a business. I knew nothing about marketing myself or selling myself. At that point in time, selling felt so freaking cringy. Like I was like, how am I even going to sell something to somebody that doesn't feel good? It feels icky to me. And so I started this with literally zero of any of that experience, business, sales, marketing, none of it. I also wasn't a sleep consultant. I had sleep trained my 3 kids. I was somebody that my friends and family would call whenever they were having sleep challenges because they saw how successful I was with my own children's sleep. But I didn't know how to create a plan for somebody. I didn't know how to coach somebody from the beginning to the end, all the way through step by step. And so I had those things working against me in a way where, I didn't have the experience, I didn't have that background. But what I did have was a delusional belief that I would figure it out anyway. There is a big difference between having the confidence already in your ability to do something specific and being committed to learning and figuring it out. And if you are committed to learning and figuring it out, the confidence will come. You just have to be willing to accept that you're not going to know everything right away, that you need to ask questions, that you need to learn more, that you need to be okay with making mistakes and learning from them. The willingness to learn can matter so much more than anything else at this point. So, before we move on to point two, I just want to mention really quickly that we have a free school community that I think would be so beneficial for you if you are in this place of trying to figure out what's next. If you are thinking sleep consulting sounds interesting, but you don't even know what it is, or you're not sure what that path would look like, or how much you could earn, or anything like that. Our free school community is called Become a Sleep Consultant. You can find the link below in our description. Okay, so on to my second crazy belief. So I started sleep consulting and my sleep consultant certification and my sleep consulting business already with the idea that this would just be a starting point. I knew that I wanted to be an amazing sleep consultant and that I wanted to get really, really great at that role. But I also knew this was not the end point. I didn't know yet what it was going to lead to. I had no idea what my life would turn into, or the fact that I would now own the Cradle Coach Academy. That was like insane that I would even think that that would be possible at that point. But I just knew deep down that becoming a sleep consultant was an amazing entry point for me into the business world. It was a way for me to dip my toes in, a way for me to learn how to grow a business and get consistent revenue and clients and all of those great things. And then I would take that skill and transform my business into ultimately something bigger and something ultimately into something more than that. And at that time, I was envisioning a lot of different possibilities. I was thinking maybe I will end up having a huge sleep consulting business, like taking care of babies, where I would have a lot of different sleep consultants working for me and multiple courses and things like that. Or I envisioned, supporting other sleep consultants in their business journey because that became something I was really good at really quickly. And I did end up doing that before I ultimately bought and now own the Cradle Coach Academy. So I think that one thing to keep in mind here is that most people are scared of starting one new thing. And here I was starting one new thing while also thinking, this isn't even it. This is just the beginning for me. And so sometimes we have to be delusional about what is possible for us so that we can create the life that we want. Thank goodness I had that delusional belief, because this one decision to become a sleep consultant has literally changed my entire life and my family's life. And that one decision has led to so many other opportunities, including, as I mentioned earlier, starting to mentor other sleep consultants. That was the first thing that really grew my income as I transitioned from just helping families to then also supporting other sleep consultants in growing their businesses. Then it led to me making the absolutely unhinged decision to message the owner of the Cradle Coach Academy to see if she would potentially sell to me. And I want to tell you that really quickly because I think it's important, an important part of this story. Only about a year after I'd become a sleep consultant and I'd already left my job at that point and was really, big into growing my business, I came across a post from one of the OGs in the sleep consulting world where she had shared in a group that she was contemplating selling her business. I recognized her name and my immediate thought was, oh my gosh, I should message her. And then, of course, the sane part of my brain was like, absolutely not. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know who you are. That is crazy. Do not message her. And then the imposter syndrome started popping up of, you've only been doing this a year. Why would she want to sell to you? She wouldn't want to sell to somebody who hasn't had the depth of experience that she has. She would want to sell to somebody that is better than you or further along than you, and all of those things that we tell ourselves, right? And so I sat on it for probably a couple of hours because I tend to make fast decisions. And then I decided, you know what? F it. I'm messaging her and we'll see what happens. The worst that can happen is she doesn't answer or she just says, no, thank you. I'm not interested. And that one decision to go out on a limb and take a chance and message her ultimately ended in me owning the Cradle Coach Academy and completely blowing up my business and changing the way that our entire life functioned, really. So, breaking down the timeline of how all of this worked, I went from deciding I was going to become a sleep consultant, enrolling in a sleep consultant certification program about a week later, and then getting certified about 2 months later, leaving my $150,000 job 7 months after that. And then about 5 months later is whenever I messaged the owner of the Cradle Coach Academy and we connected and started the process for me to take over the Cradle Coach Academy. In a span of just about 4 years, I have gone from being a corporate worker with no business idea in mind, not even knowing what was going to be next for me, to building a business that has, again, now earned over $1 million. And so I just want to show you that this is possible for you too, but you have to be willing to accept that you're going to have to do things that are uncomfortable. You're going to have to do things that most people won't do. And you can literally change your entire life if you make the decision to get uncomfortable and do the things that most people simply will not do. Now, the third thing that I believed that most people would think was crazy was that I could do this while already being overstretched, while already feeling like I had no extra time in my calendar, and while already being super stressed out most of the time about how I was going to manage the day-to-day life in my existing life before even adding this other layer. So at this point in my life, I was in a very demanding career. I was working 8 to 5, plus was getting calls and emails all hours of the day and night outside of that, and during the weekend as well. I had 3 very young children at the time. 2 of them were school aged, one of them was still in daycare. I'm married, so I have that relationship to tend to as well. And we have a really big family that we're super close to. So there are always different things going on inside our family that require us to be present. And so my life was extremely full. I cannot. And at that point, I was constantly trying to figure out ways to be more productive, to be able to get more time. If I wanted to work out, I literally had to set an alarm for like 4 o'clock in the morning for me to be able to get that workout in before my day started. And so the delusional piece comes in here where I decided I could make it work. I could figure out how to add this new layer in to my already overpacked life. And that led to me getting certified and going through the modules and doing everything that I needed to do to get certified while my kids were still asleep super early in the morning after they went to bed at night, working through it on the weekends, listening to modules on my commute to work, listening to modules in between meetings, doing the work that I needed to do in between things so that I could figure out how to get certified in that fast timeline. I did it in just 2 months. Then once I was building my business, I was using those same pockets of time to build my website, to find my first clients, to post on social media, to do all of the things that I needed to build and grow my business. So I was freaking tired. I was exhausted all the time, but I was obsessed with this business. I had found for the first time in my entire life the thing that I knew I was meant to be doing. And at that point, I was in my mid 30s. And so it was just this incredible feeling to me to know this is it. This is what I'm meant to do with my life. And all I wanted was to be able to do that and to not have to go to my corporate job that was not fulfilling anymore. And so I accepted that I would be completely overstretched for a period of time. But I also knew that it was temporary. I knew that once I built my business to a place where I could leave my job, all of that would shift and I would have freedom like I'd never experienced before in my entire life. And that is exactly what has happened. But it had to start with that belief that I can find the time. I stopped watching TV. I stopped scrolling on Instagram. I stopped doing the things that used to be like relaxing for me, and instead started building my business, started going through the modules to get certified, all of the things that I needed to do to be able to make this actually happen. And so I know, because I speak to so many of you all the time, I know that one of the biggest fears and one of the biggest concerns whenever somebody is thinking about starting a business, especially a busy working mom, is that you don't have time. And I get it. Believe me, I want to get it. But you have to realize that it has to start somewhere. And if we are not putting in the time and effort to build this business in the background, then we're never going to be able to get to where we want to be. And so I had to accept that this period of my life was going to be absolute chaos and that was going to be okay because it was going to pay off and it was going to get me to the point where I could build this life that at that point seemed like a dream and seemed like it would be impossible. And now it is literally my day-to-day reality where I pick up my kids every single day from school at 3:15, no questions asked. If my laptop is closed, I'm there picking them up from school. When I first left my job, I brought my 2-year-old home from daycare. She was with me 3 days a week and went to part-time daycare 2 days a week. She got to have a childhood in her early toddler years that my other 2 kids never had. I'm making more money than I made in my corporate job. I am working half or less than half of the amount of hours that I was working in my corporate job. I didn't put my kids into camps this summer because I wanted to spend time with them. I'm able to work a couple of hours in the morning and then spend the rest of the day with them. This is literally a life that I could never have imagined before and it is now my reality because I decided I'm willing to be overstretched for a short period of time to build the thing that I want that is going to give me the life that I desire. So, what all of these 3 crazy beliefs reinforce is that you don't have to be fearless to make things happen. You don't even have to have proof that it can work for you. No, how do I say that? You don't have to be fearless to make a huge change in your life. You don't have to have it all figured out. And you don't have to have excess amounts of time either to make it happen. You just have to have the courage to do it, even though you have those obstacles in your way, even though you've never done it before. And in reality, you need to have a really good plan to follow so that you're not out there lost trying to piece it together and figure it out on your own. And that's exactly what we provide for you inside the Cradle Coach Academy. So if this was possible for me and so many of our students, it is possible for you too. And so if you are interested in learning more about sleep consulting specifically and how this might just be the path for you that takes you out of the career that you're in now and into that life that you want, where you're able to be so much more present for your actual life instead of fitting in your life around the little pockets of time that you have outside of your job, then I want to invite you again to join our free school community. The link is in the description below. As soon as we see your request come through, we will accept you and you can start diving into all of the free materials in there, including a full walkthrough of how this actually works, how you go from 0 to certified and confident and getting paid in just 90 days. We also have lots and lots of graduate stories in there so you can see real examples from students that have done it. And we have our income information where you can calculate how much you could actually earn as a sleep consultant and so much more. So we would love to see you in there. I hope that you join our school community soon. And I will see you in our next video where I'm going to break down why I chose sleep consulting specifically whenever I decided that I was ready to start a business. And that will be out next week. So I will see you then.